Betrayal. It is the deepest wound, the sharpest dagger. And in the kingdom of Israel, few betrayals cut deeper than this one. This is the story of Ahithophel, the wisest man of his time, a trusted advisor, a friend to the king, who became his greatest enemy. How does a man go from being the most trusted counselor to the king, to a traitor who takes his own life? To understand this tragedy, we must first know the man himself. Ahithophel of Gilo, a man whose wisdom was legendary. His counsel was not just respected, it was revered. In the days of King David, there was no advisor more trusted, no strategist more brilliant. The Bible tells us that Ahithophel's advice was as if one inquired of the very word of God. 2 Samuel 16:23. When he spoke, kings listened. Under Ahithophel's counsel, David secured victories, built alliances, and strengthened his rule. He was a man at the heart of power, until everything changed. But wisdom without loyalty can be dangerous, and trust, once broken, can never be fully restored. Ahithophel would make a choice, one that would change history. He would turn against the very king he once guided. But in the end, his betrayal would lead not to power, but to his own destruction. What drove him to betray King David? What fueled his resentment? And why did he meet such a tragic end? Before the betrayal, before the downfall, Ahithophel was a name spoken with reverence. He was not just an advisor. He was the mind behind the throne. Ahithophel of Gilo, a man whose wisdom was said to rival that of the prophets. His words shaped the kingdom, his counsel determined the fate of battles, and his advice was considered divine. During David's reign, the kingdom of Israel faced many threats: Philistines, Moabites, and internal rebellions. It was Ahithophel's strategic mind that helped secure victories and strengthen David's rule. David, the Philistines are gathering near Gezer. If they strike, Jerusalem itself could be in danger. What should we do? Ahithophel, if we engage them now, we fight on their terms. Instead, send a small force to lure them toward the valley, where our archers will have the advantage, then strike from the north. Time and again, his strategies ensured David's dominance. His words were not just advice, they were law. David, Ahithophel, I trust your wisdom above all. Without your guidance, this kingdom would not stand as it does today. Ahithophel, a wise king seeks counsel, and a great king listens to it. David trusted Ahithophel like a brother, but even the strongest bonds can break. A man of great wisdom, a trusted advisor, but also a man with secrets. A storm was brewing within him, one that would soon change the course of history. But why did Ahithophel turn against David? What could drive a man so wise, so trusted, to commit treason? To find the answer, we must go back to a scandal that shook the kingdom. Bathsheba, the wife of Uriah, a loyal soldier in David's army. But she was also something more, Ahithophel's granddaughter. As an advisor to the king, Ahithophel knew everything that happened within the palace. And then he learned of the unthinkable. Servant hesitant. My lord, Bathsheba is with child. David, Uriah must never know. Uriah, a man of honor, refused to enjoy comfort while his comrades fought on the battlefield. But David had already made his choice. David, to messenger, deliver this to Joab. And just like that, Uriah was dead, a loyal soldier sacrificed for a king's desire. Eliam, Father, how can the king take her like this? And Uriah, he was a righteous man. Ahithophel, the king does as he pleases. Eliam, and we do nothing? Ahithophel, not yet. Ahithophel said nothing. He remained silent, loyal, obedient, but deep within, the seeds of betrayal had already been planted. Jerusalem was on the brink of chaos. The kingdom, once secure under David's rule, now faced its greatest threat, rebellion. And at the heart of it was a father's betrayal by his own son. Absalom. If only I were judge in the land. Then every man with a case or cause could come to me, and I would give him justice. Absalom, David's own son, had spent years secretly stealing the hearts of Israel. And when the moment was right, he made his move. David, caught off guard, was forced to flee his own city, his own throne. And as he left Jerusalem behind, he suffered a betrayal far worse than Absalom's rebellion. Absalom, Ahithophel, my father's most trusted advisor. Why are you here? Ahithophel, because your father no longer deserves to rule. Ahithophel, the man whose wisdom was once like the voice of God, had made his choice. He would no longer serve David. He would serve his enemy. Ahithophel, if you wish to secure the throne, you must disgrace your father beyond redemption. Absalom, and how do I do that? Ahithophel, take his concubines, defile them before all of Israel. And so, in broad daylight, Absalom followed Ahithophel's advice, a symbolic act, a public humiliation that shattered any hope of reconciliation between father and son. Ahithophel, do not hesitate. Strike now. David is weak, on the run. Let me take 12,000 men and pursue him tonight. We will catch him before he regains his strength. Ahithophel knew David well. He understood war. He understood strategy. And he knew this was their only chance to win. Ahithophel, hesitation will be your downfall. But Absalom did hesitate, and that decision would seal Ahithophel's fate. Victory was within reach. David was vulnerable, on the run. And Ahithophel, the man whose wisdom was like the voice of God, had given the perfect plan. But at this moment, the moment that would determine the fate of a kingdom, Absalom hesitated. Ahithophel, let me take 12,000 men. Tonight, we strike. David will be weak, unguarded. If we move now, the throne is yours. Absalom leans back, unsure. He turns to another advisor, Hushai, David's secret ally. Hushai, no, my lord. David is no ordinary man. He is a warrior, like a lion backed into a corner. If you attack now, he will destroy you. Instead, gather all of Israel. March in full strength. Crush him with overwhelming force. And with those words, Ahithophel was undone. Absalom ignored his advice. The opportunity was lost. David. God has turned Ahithophel's counsel into foolishness. For the first time in his life, Ahithophel had been ignored. And worse, he knew what it meant. He had once been the greatest mind in Israel. Now, he was a man without a future. And so, Ahithophel, the man whose wisdom was once like the voice of God, ended his own life. Ahithophel's story is one of brilliance and tragedy. A man who once shaped the destiny of a kingdom, undone not by his enemies, but by his own bitterness. His betrayal was his downfall, and in the end, his wisdom could not save him. The war was over. Absalom, David's son, was dead. His rebellion had failed, and with it, Ahithophel's fate was sealed. David, whispering, tears in his eyes, "O my son Absalom, would that I had died instead of you." Though David reclaimed his throne, he did not celebrate. The cost of victory was too high. His son was gone. His trusted counselor was dead, and his kingdom would never be the same again. Ahithophel's tragic end mirrors another infamous betrayal in history. that of Judas Iscariot. Both men were trusted by their leaders. Both turned against them, and both, overcome by despair, took their own lives. Wisdom without loyalty is dangerous, and betrayal never ends well. Ahithophel's grudge against David, his silent resentment over Bathsheba, festered for years. In the end, it didn't destroy David, it destroyed him. Ahithophel was brilliant, but his wisdom lacked loyalty. He chose strategy over faithfulness, and it cost him everything. From Ahithophel to Judas, to countless others throughout history, betrayal may seem like a path to power, but in the end, it always leads to ruin. David, softly, echoing through the darkness, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." Ahithophel was once the wisest man in Israel, but in the end, his bitterness and betrayal led him to a tragic end. What can we learn from his story?